If you told me that Wit Studios, maker of Attack on Titan and all its knockoffs, was going to make this series, I wouldn't have believed you. And if you told me that this series was going to be one of the most popular anime of the past year, I also wouldn't have believed you. But fortunately, I saw Ancient Magus' Bride for myself, and I can honestly say that Wit Studio made one of the best anime of the past year. This series is beautifully done, it's amazingly written, characters are great, story's great, animation's great. There's really nothing that serious about this anime that I did not love. And chances are you probably loved it too, because this thing was huge. Like, seriously, everyone was talking about this anime, not just in the anime community. I saw a lot of big YouTubers somehow bring this show up. There were a lot of people I actually ran into in my normal life who somehow heard about this. Like, that is crazy, especially because this series is not action, it is not sci-fi. There's a little magic, but it's not a big factor considering what the actual plot is. And it's not part of a big franchise, and it still became huge, and that is incredible. And since chances are you did see it, I'm not going to have any order to this discussion, and I'm going to go full spoilers. I just want to talk about what this series meant to me and what I took away from it. And you can tell me below in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. But first up, one thing I really want to talk about is actually the relationship between Chise and Elias, and I hesitated there because this, for a lot of people, is one of the more controversial things in this show. Actually, I think that might be the main controversy. Essentially, a lot of people found the relationship between Elias and Chise creepy, and honestly, if you found it a little creepy too, I can't fault you for that. There are times where this relationship feels like it's unhealthy and that it shouldn't be going on and that there's something wrong with these people. But my argument would be for why I think that's good is I don't think you're supposed to necessarily agree with this relationship as a romance. And I think that's very good, especially because the show's title is Ancient Magus' Bride. You'd assume just sort of this generic, weird Twilight-style romance, but it's not that. Like, there's a lot of points in this where it insinuates Elias has a problem, that he's not a good person, that he's insane, and that Chise is very much more like an abuse victim more than anything else. And the show plays this very intelligently. But what I liked about it also was that they sort of gave you a reason to why these two are sort of attracted to each other as much as they are. First up, for Chise, for starters, she's a redhead, so she immediately had my attention. They so beautifully set up that this girl has an extreme case of depression at the beginning of this series. They even insinuate that she tried to kill herself but couldn't because she seems to have a healing factor, kind of like Wolverine. I'm just saying, there's a few points in this show where she should have died. But after basically just not having any will to live, she sells herself to this auction just so she has somewhere to go. Like, that's pretty messed up, and she's a pretty messed up person throughout this. One of her big themes is this sort of idea of, what does it mean to want to be alive? What does it mean to value who you are or to be able to value others? She doesn't have that. I love the animation on her. I love that her character design is very subtle. It's not overly pretty or overly feminine. She does feel like she is someone who would fade into the background, which is a great representation of how she feels. A nice little trick is, I love the bags around her eyes, showing just how stressed she is, how depressed she is, how negative she feels. And I love that, if you notice throughout the series, the bags come and go with different things that go on. Sometimes she looks completely normal in moments where she's happy. Other times, in intense moments or sad moments, they come back. Now, you could make the argument this is just a representation of her weird sort of body and her weird energy levels, but I love the sort of metaphor here of what is going on in this girl's head and where we are in her sort of healing. And this show really is about healing, being able to move forward with yourself, to accept yourself. And I love how that is represented in Elias, someone who felt like he never belonged, never had a place in the world, so he just kind of accepted that. He just sort of accepted he's alone, and he sort of developed into this strange, somewhat off-putting creature. And I love the design of Elias too. I love how the skull It obviously never changes. It's a skull. He can't express or emote, but they come up with so many clever ways at angles to show him off and lighting in the background to give you such a sense of what this character is thinking, how he feels. And I really got to put it up to the actors of this too. It would have been really easy with Chisei's sort of monotone to get someone really boring, but the actress they got really puts a lot of emotion and character into it, oftentimes with not a lot of words. A lot of it is just sort of how she contemplates and looks at the world, and she just sort of adds a little narration to it. It complements itself perfectly. Elias's actor is also really good too. I'm sure many of you have heard the joke that the voice is very sexy, and yeah, it is, and I think that was a little intentional. You kind of gotta give them something to. I've seen many of fangirls who look like they could flick it to his voice alone. But I really love the weight of it. You do feel his age, but I love that the actor always knows how to add that Elias is still growing as a person. And that's where I think the relationship really works, is that they're not perfect people. They're very much damaged people who have both gone through a lot. One in not a lot of time, because she's not that old, and one through just this extremely long period. And also, they do play up Elias is not necessarily a good person, especially at the end there when they kidnap Stella. And it's like, look, I don't care who I gotta kill. I gotta save you. You really get to see 24 episodes as these two people change and they grow. And I think that was done better than a lot of anime do, especially because it is a show that is willing to show the ambiguousness of it. Not everything is positive or negative in this world. There's a lot of areas of gray. There's a lot of stuff we never learn and a lot of stuff we never go into. But the visuals do such a great job of giving you an idea what this world is. It's okay not knowing everything because you've seen all you need to see. One shot of the animation is enough to get you hooked. I love how the visuals are done. This sort of wonderment Miyazaki, but also everything is so detailed. You always feel like you understand how everything works here through the visual style alone, and to be able to maintain this level of animation quality and budget throughout is really a good testament, especially because Attack on Titan, yeah, it looks good, but Season 2 especially, I thought, added some unnecessary CGI, and Seraph of the End looked cool, but it had similar problems. I don't know if it's because they've been working on this show for that long, but I know they've been sitting on this one for a while. It really is a beautifully looking show. I love the soundtrack, too. Like, the score to this anime is amazing and fantastic, and it complements everything so well, especially because lately I feel like we've been getting some kind of mess scores, so it really was great to see something done so well. As for everything else in the plot, the other characters are good. I'm glad everyone gets moments where they shine, everyone comes through well. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, the main plot with Joseph and Cartaphilus I thought was fine. If I were to get into a couple gripes I had with the show is a little formulaic in as much as it'll make it look like Chisei's in danger, but it turns out she never was. I think they do that a couple too many times, honestly. Especially towards the end there, where Chisei gets kidnapped by Joseph/Cartaphilus, and it's just sort of like, well, she's in danger. Well, no, turns out the Titania could have just found her at any time, but was just waiting for Elias to get over his hissy fit. But at the same time, this isn't really a show about action. This isn't really a show about danger or horror or violence, though weirdly all those things get in there sooner or later. This is a show about people learning to grow and learning to accept themselves, learning to accept each other, learning to move forward. It's also about presenting this beautiful world. I love everything from the dragons to the witches to all these different sort of aspects. Again, like I said, it never fully goes into everything, but it knows how to give you enough to feel satisfied and want to see more. And I want to see more. I know the manga is still going, and they set up several plot threads for a Season 2 in this, or Season 3, because honestly, the Christmas break, when the halfway point went for this show, did feel like a second season. They even went and kind of reintroduced everyone like it's a second season. I don't know what happened there. But all in all, this was a beautiful anime with great characters, great story. Just watching these two sort of go along and learn to love each other and feel for each other is so fascinating. And hey, Chise is tier 1 waifu material. But what did you think? In the comment section below, give me your thoughts on Ancient Magus' Bride. Did you watch this series? Did you not watch this series? Tell me all that you want to know, and any other anime from this past season you want me to talk about. Obviously, everything's wrapping up, and I have many choice words I'd like to say about certain citrusy type animes. It's a weird way to do it. But as always, click to like, click subscribe, and we'll see you next time.